going back briefly to the Bolshevik Revolution and the social revolution, bringing in no-fault divorce, you mentioned the bonds in the marriage, and we have social bonds, economic bonds, religious bonds, all of these different things that bring family together into a single unit. And I was wondering if you, in your research, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit specifically about who in Bolshevik Russia, who wanted to destroy the family, what was their purpose in doing so, and what was their methodology? Because some of the reading I had was not that they believed, as the traditional Marxist view, that class would disappear. Inherent in this was also that the family would disappear, and they sort of did this by legitimizing children out of wedlock and by introducing no-fault divorce, basically blurring these lines or essentially eliminating these lines. And the argument was slightly nuanced, as you said, because in the States the idea of free love and sexual revolution had more to do with promiscuity than anything else. In Bolshevik Russia, it wasn't necessarily so much about promiscuity as it was saying, hey, all of these bonds are artificial bonds, bourgeois, capitalistic bonds that unite the family. Why don't we remove all of these links and bonds and allow free people to be monogamous on their own voluntary will?
Right.
There seemed to be an intentional, there seemed to be an intent and a motivation to destroy the family, and it seemed to stem not so much in terms of intentionally trying to destroy people themselves, but to make them reliant on society and make them reliant on the state. Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit about what were some of the impetuses and what are similarities to the States and what are some differences maybe?
Yeah, the whole question of the Bolshevik family policy is something that needs more research. We need to figure out more about who did push what. But generally, I think a lot. I mean, some of it, as you say, came from Marxist theory. Engels had written his famous treatise on the family, and early on there were feminist hangers-on, taggers-along, who came out of socialism, out of Bolshevism, who pushed this kind of thing. As you mentioned, Alexandra Kollontai, for example. She was a major figure in this. And Russian Bolshevism and socialism generally in the late 19th and early 20th century, there was a very strong kind of bohemian element to it. There was a lot of new freedom of alcohol consumption, sexual freedom that was part of the Bolshevik and socialist lifestyle. Now, interestingly, there was also in Bolshevism a puritanical element, which actually asserted itself at times against this. Lenin was probably the main figure in this. Lenin was not bohemian at all. He was very puritanical. He didn't like the free and licentious lifestyles of a lot of his comrades, and he tried to impose some order on this and on Kollontai as well. And there were other Bolsheviks as well who had a very strong idea of organizational needs and the need for discipline and for have a single-minded focus on the political ends. And I think some of them, and later, as I understand it from what I've read, Stalin himself also imposed a certain amount of order on this when he came to power. Simply, I think the practical needs of government overrode this, and the feminist, the family lifestyle, the bohemian lifestyle was not the dominant strain in Bolshevism in the end. That's why the Bolsheviks were successful in many ways. They were puritanical, organizational, ruthless, and single-minded, and that's why they triumphed when the Mensheviks and others failed. But since that time, I think much of the more the bohemian and the feminist elements have come out more in much of the left, and we've kind of created a soft Bolshevism today, a kind of a where the Bolsheviks made the mistake of doing this all at once, and the result was chaos. The out of wedlock births exploded. There was social chaos. There was crime. There was huge costs of providing for all these illegitimate children, and so forth. and they could see that the problem, like the frog in the kettle, proverbially, they had to deal with it. We've done this slowly over the course of decades or even centuries, and so we don't really realize what we've done, and it's kind of creeping slowly. Barbara Whitehead argues that the divorce first became a major part of American political culture during and after the American Revolution. So maybe it wasn't just the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution that that started this. Maybe on a softer, more subtle, more gradualistic level, we started it with the American Revolution, and we're just maybe we're only getting to the consequences of it now. I can't say, but it would make an interesting book.
It seems like, unlike Bolshevik Russia, we have a more indulgent flair to the sexual revolution from the 60s and 70s.